everyone, thank you for tuning in. Today I am with Arfa Iqbal and we are going to talk about the infamous imposter syndrome. We both suffer from it from the past, and today we are going to give you some useful tools and so you can use them on a daily basis. If you don't know what's imposter syndrome, is that feeling that on a Sunday night doesn't let you sleep because you're thinking about the next day meeting. And I mean, you have prepared for it. However, not as much as you wished. Deep down, you know you could have done a bit more to prepare yourself. If you only had more time, but now you don't. And now you're in bed and you keep rolling from side to side as your thoughts will not leave you alone. Now, if you have these feelings or like you're scared to be feeling that you're going to find out that you're a fraud, that's a very common feeling, and many of us suffer from it. A study has found out that 70% of Americans suffer from it from time to time. And how do you know if you suffer from it? If you have one of these feelings on a regular basis, you might have imposter syndrome. If one is this, a lot of my success happened more by luck rather than by hard work, or I'm uncomfortable to be proud of my achievements and I feel like bragging, or my successes don't really prove much. I have so many failures too. I can't be good enough, but that's it. So if you want to know more about it, today we're going to talk with amazing ninja marketer Arfa. So thank you for being my guest today. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Janine. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for having me on. I'm going to keep my introduction mercifully brief. I'm a digital marketer and direct response copywriter, and basically my job is to help people make more money. That's essentially what I do in a nutshell, so that's it, really.
Awesome. Thank you. Any chance you can put your microphone volume a bit louder? I sometimes struggle to hear you.
Yep. Is that better?
Yes, seems like. Okay, awesome. So you said, like, as me, you used to suffer from imposter syndrome. Can you tell me more, like, when did you realize you were feeling these feelings? And of course, as we chatted about it before, as me, you didn't know what it was at the beginning till somebody told you. So would you like to share with us more about this?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, my background is like, I'm a self-taught marketer, and when I started getting myself out there, and I remember being at a mastermind actually, and I really felt like I was the stupidest person in the room, and I had no confidence to speak. Like, we would have quarterly meetings, and we'd be there for 2 days, and honestly, for the first, I'd say probably about 3 meetings in before I could really feel a little bit more relaxed, and I would try to avoid talking to people. I wouldn't put if I had anything to say, I would keep it to myself, because I kept thinking anything that's going to come out of my mouth right now is going to be stupid and everyone's going to laugh at me. And I didn't know, like, what's the problem? And I just thought, it's a lack of confidence. It's a lack of confidence. And I remember having a chat with a friend of mine, and she was the one that actually said to me, she goes, how is this whole thing making you feel? And I said, I don't know. I think I feel like almost like I'm a fraud, and I don't deserve to, I don't deserve to be in that room. And, and there was all these like horrible feelings of insecurity coming up. And she's like, you've got imposter syndrome. And I'm like, what is that? And so she's the one that introduced me to that idea and that concept. And once she explained to me what it was, I was like, oh, okay, so that's what I've got. But it took me quite a while actually to get my head around it and to really move away from it.
Yes, because it's like when somebody explained it to me, I was like, yes, I feel that way. I feel I don't belong here, and everybody's going to find out, and who am I to be here? But those feelings are actually people who are successfully educated who suffer from it. And as you said when we chat, it's when you get out of your comfort zone. If you stop growing and you get comfortable with what you know, then you don't feel imposter syndrome because you're good at what you do. But when you keep growing and get out of your comfort zone, you keep feeling it. So it's super normal. And
oh God, you know what? Sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
Yeah, so I was just going to pick up on the point that you mentioned, because I almost feel like it goes up in peaks and troughs, because it's like I'm one of these people. I like to learn, and I'm always constantly learning because I want to be better at what I do. Because obviously, the better I am, the more I can help, my clients. However, the problem is that every time you learn something new, you go through this like huge learning curve, and then there's that little wobbly bit in the middle where you're not quite sure whether or not you're good enough to talk about that thing, or to teach that thing, or to, basically even apply what you've learned. And I think that's, sometimes I do have those feelings of doubt and insecurity. They do creep back. And because of that, I feel like, it almost never goes away. You just have to learn how to manage it.
Exactly. Yes, yes. It's a kind of chatterbox. What do you do? Which is your tool to lower the volume of your imposter syndrome?
I think for me, the main thing is that I almost have to remind myself that I can do what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. So I'll give you an example. Like, I was asked to do a presentation in front of about 40 entrepreneurs, and I was so frightened because I'd never done anything like that before. And I remember just before the presentation, I had to go outside, take a few deep breaths, and I remember telling myself, calm down, Arfa. Everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna be confident. You're gonna be natural. You know what you're talking about. Just be confident. And I had to talk positively to myself, because I think if I hadn't have done that, I think I really would have messed up. And a lot of it is like, it's what happens between your ears. It's those those voices of self-doubt. I think when you're louder than the doubts and the voices in your head, you choose to listen to those voices. And that's why I was like literally saying it out loud. You're fine. You're going to be confident. You're going to be okay. You've got this kind of thing. So I was like literally giving myself a pep talk before this, big sort of presentation that I had to give. And of course, it went absolutely fine, and there was no problem.
Yes, and actually, you got so many people complimenting you.
I
So,
did actually, yeah. So I got I got a massive round of applause, and literally like 4 times, and people coming up to me afterwards saying, "Oh my God, like, I want to learn more. I want to learn more." But I remember, like, just even half an hour before I had to give that presentation, I was like, literally, I had the sweaty hands, and I was like feeling shaky and really nervous, and I was doubting myself, like, who am I to be stood here teaching everybody else? It was like all these silly thoughts going through my mind, and I kind of like had to give myself a telling off, and take a few deep breaths and just go for it.
amazing. Yeah, and actually, public speaking is one of the most biggest fears in humankind.
Oh yeah.
Probably number one, probably even above death. So,
I think it's that fear of public humiliation. That's all it is.
yeah, it's also judgment, because it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you fear that judgment. And I read a post the other day saying that the human brain is amazing, because it works from the second that you're basically conceived, when you from the second that you're born, basically, right up until the point you open your mouth when you have to talk in front of people. So, and that just made me laugh.
oh, you need to share that article. I would love to read it.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah. When you find it, share it with me, and
I
I will share it also in the description. So in case anybody wants to read it, sounds super interesting.
Yeah, I'll dig it out. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and actually, what you did was, I'm a mindset coach and a therapist. So what you did to tell yourself positive talk, that was what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you have, because it's like the mind doesn't recognize the difference between fear and excitement. So when we are fearful, like before going on a stage, we need to keep repeating ourselves, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, I can do this, I'm
Yeah.
safe. Yeah. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
you have to give yourself that pep talk, isn't it? You have to convince yourself that you can do it.
yes. The option is to freak out and to cry on the stage. It's always an option, but
Yeah.
not as powerful and and effective as positive talk. But it's a choice. Um, and how do you know when you're feeling imposter syndrome? Before you get the analytical thinking that you are suffering from it, do you have any body feelings or like any thoughts before you realize that you're suffering from it? Because to me, it arrives like quite suddenly. I don't realize it until I'm like, something is wrong with me. I say, oh, I'm feeling this. Okay, I got it. And do you have any feelings or any recurring thoughts that kind of give you a warning?
It's interesting because mine's exactly the same. So it comes on very suddenly, and it always comes on at the wrong time. Usually,
of course.
usually when I'm about to get in front of a client, that is, that literally it happens then. But then, I have to, again, it's that positive self-talk. So the thing that tends to happen to me, especially if it's someone completely new, I've never spoken to them, I literally find myself a good few minutes before I'm about to speak to them, I have to take several deep breaths. I say a little prayer. I literally have to talk myself, like, you're going to be fine. You're going to give amazing value. You're going to really, really, really help them. And I have to, again, it's convincing myself with, basically positive affirmations almost. And I have to remind myself that, I know what I'm doing. And it, exactly as you said, it creeps up very suddenly. And the thing that makes me feel is like all of a sudden my head will start buzzing with all these like what if. And I will feel a little bit, I don't know how to, a bit lightheaded sometimes. I feel a little bit lightheaded, which is really odd. But it just reminds me of something that I read in an article. This was like a very long time ago. So Linda Evangelista, who was a very famous supermodel in the 90s, she was famed apparently for before she would get on the runway, she would lock herself in her dressing room, and people could hear her saying, "I am Linda Evangelista," and she would say it again and again and again, and you could hear her saying this. This is before she would get onto the runway, and that just shows like someone who is, like drop dead gorgeous and yeah, like world famous. Even she would have moments of self-doubt, and she would have to talk herself out of it. So I think everyone to some degree suffers from it, whether they recognize it or not. And I think it's exactly what you said. I think it's that fear of being found out or not being good enough, or that fear of being judged, or even like in my case, being embarrassed that something's going to go wrong. So I think all of these fears, they kind of like, the brain likes to keep you safe, and I feel that anything that is perceived as slightly outside of that comfort zone is perceived as a threat by the body, and that's the reason why you start behaving like that.
Exactly, because it's out of the familiar. So when we do something new, the mind thinks it's dangerous.
Yeah, it wants to protect you.
Yes, this is why smokers or heavy drinkers or drug users struggle to get out of their habits, because whenever they try to stop, to quit, the mind is like, it's danger. We lived with this kind of habit for over 10 years. We are safe. Let's keep doing that. Because the mind role is not to keep us happy, it's to keep us safe and keep us safe in the familiar. This is what my amazing mentor and teacher, Marisa Pierre, taught me. The thing is, this conversation we are having with Arfa today is just the two of us. We both agree on one thing, that imposter syndrome is very unpleasant, but it's super worthy, because it means you are getting out of your comfort zone, that you are growing.
Yeah, that's the best thing ever. Because if you don't grow, how are you going to improve as a person, and how are you going to continue to help your clients? It's so important that you do push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Yes, Arfa, I totally agree with you. So a permanent solution doesn't exist unless you stop growing. You agree with me?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Because it's easy to be safe.
Exactly.
But you know what, in this world, if you want to stand out and you want to be something, you have to get, well, I always say, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's how you should
get it. I love that phrase. I can't remember who said it. Probably somebody famous, but I love that quote.
I think most of them famous, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So let me see if I ask you all the questions. Yes, when we were chatting about it before, let's talk about before you knew what it was. You say that whenever you felt like I'm not ready for this and stuff, but you knew you were prepared enough and you knew your stuff, you're very good at your job, you were thinking this is ridiculous or like something. Tell me more about before you knew you had an awareness of this problem. How were you feeling about it? Because many of us, and I didn't know what it was, imposter syndrome, till 3-4 years ago.
Yep. The same thing. So before I knew about it, I would literally berate myself. I would be like, why am I feeling like this? Like, don't be so ridiculous. And even like, you know, the people around me, they could see that I was like nervous and really struggling. They'd be like, yeah, but you know your stuff and you're very good at what you do. Just be confident in your own knowledge. And I'm like, but how? But how? And, you know, it took me a long time. I watch a lot of Brendan Bouchard and, you know, Tony Robbins. And I used to watch a lot of, you know, a lot of personal development videos and stuff like that. And I actually realized, I mean, I've never really heard any of them using that word imposter syndrome, but they did talk about confidence and, you know, changing your state. So that was something that I picked up from Tony Robbins. Like, if you're not confident, the person who's you know, the most certain in a negotiation, for example, is always going to win because they are most certain. And he was talking about like changing your state and things like that, and things like, you know, straightening your back. And I physically do that as well. So if I'm going to speak in front of people, I will physically straighten my back. I will take a deep breath. I will lift my head. Like, you know, that the body language of someone who is confident is very, very different to the body language of someone who is not confident.
Absolutely.
You know, before I knew what it was, it's like I was watching all these videos and I still didn't know what it was. I just thought, oh, it's a lack of confidence, you know, and I thought, okay, well, if I change my state, it will help me to feel more confident. And it did. But obviously, you know, it's that because when you're constantly growing, you're always going to have that, you know, little voice in the back of your head saying, oh, but do you, you know, are you really that good? Are you really that qualified to speak in front of people? What if people know more than you? What if you get found out? What if nobody finds any value in what you have to say? And there's all these doubts would like come flooding into my mind, and I would literally have to try and just block them out. It was very hard. It was very hard. And I would tell myself I'm being ridiculous. But obviously, you know, telling yourself you're being ridiculous is something negative, and therefore it's not actually that helpful. So the only thing that really works is the positive affirmations and changing your state.
Yes, because it's like telling off ourselves. So it's like as you said, it's not that positive, because yes, you're trying to shut up those emotions, but those emotions are showing up for a reason. And the problem I've saw that when I'm fearful of something, I always look for signs. My ego needs to be right. So I'm like, oh, that person is yawning when I'm talking. They're not interested. And that's the fact. Some people will not be interested in what we have to say, but still, when we have a message to share with somebody, we need to do that, because some people will not be interested, some people will be indifferent, but some people will need what we have to say.
You know, I love what you've just said, because I think this is really important, especially like for people who have to really put themselves out there. Not everyone is going to love what you do, and you have to be okay with that. You know, I have a coach, I have a business coach who I work with, and one of the things that he told me again and again and again, he goes, look, he goes, these people who are at the top of their game and, you know, they push themselves very, very hard, he goes, they get their fair share of hate. You only have to look at, like, when, you know, ads that pop up on Facebook, you scroll through the comments, no matter how good somebody is at what they do, there's always going to be haters on there. There's always going to be people questioning them. There's always going to be people who are ready to tear you down. Your job is not to focus on the people who are trying to tear you down, but focus on the people that you are helping, that you are making an impact. And you have to just be okay with the fact that not everyone is going to like you.
Yeah, we are not pizza. And actually, I know some people don't even like pizza. So
yeah, exactly. But you have to be okay with it. Yeah, you just have to
yeah, probably 90% of us like pizza in the world, but still, we're not pizza. We are humans, and we have opinions. And so, but actually, even like, for example, as you were saying, that even people who are, I don't believe in perfection, but people who are like 99% good people, like Dalai Lama, Gandhi, or Nelson Mandela, those people, they had and they have so many haters. And it's like,
Yeah.
and some of these haters, they really disagree with them because they are like, oh, there are more important issues in the world, whatever it is. And some people are just seeking attention. So what we suggest, don't focus on the haters. They might not like you, then they just should switch and go to another YouTube channel, whatever you're doing. But if they don't like your message, then there is plenty of options. It's a free word. They can go to another marketer in your case, or they can go to another therapist in my case. So yeah, absolutely, you're going to find people who don't like you, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's not only is it okay, but actually it's a good thing, because polarizing, you only want to work with the people who are really, really aligned with you. I mean, I would hate to work with somebody who, I felt I was not aligned with. It wouldn't be the right fit, but it takes a certain degree of confidence to be able to do that. I mean, like when I started in my journey, and, because I'm a single parent as well. And when I started in my journey, I would literally take on any piece of work that anyone would send me because, I needed the money. But, that's not the case now. So I can be picky and choosy about who I take on as clients. And in the past, I've even, I once fired my business partner because his values were not aligned with mine. But it took a very long time for me to be okay with that in my own head. And you have to understand, and it's really about being sure of yourself, and it does take a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. For me, it took very many years. However, you've got to be at that place where you feel comfortable and confident enough to say, do you know what? I'm not desperate to take on absolutely everyone. Not everyone is really aligned with me, and that's totally okay. I only want to work with the best of the best. And if you think of it from that point of view, you're keeping it positive, that you only want to work with the best people. But also it's like a nice way of saying, the people who don't quite fit, there is another way for them, and that's not with you. And that's like, and you've got to be okay with that.
Absolutely. Yes. Because also a client that is not our ideal client, we
give you a headache. Yeah, they give you a lot of headache. They stress you out. They worry you. They whinge. They moan. They complain. They don't take responsibility. You don't want clients like that. You literally want a client who loves what you do and is very much on board with everything that you're about. Once you find people like that, like your tribe, right? Once you find that tribe, people are either gonna, they're either gonna swim towards you, or they're not. If you look at people like Gary V, for example, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's very polarizing. Like, he uses like bad language. I don't like the bad language. It's not really my thing. However, I do think that his message is very good overall, minus all that swearing and everything. But it makes no bones about the fact that he is very polarizing, and he says it like he doesn't apologize for it at all. You either like him or you don't. A bit like Marmite, it's like either you love it or you hate it. There's not really an in between kind of thing. I don't hate him. I just don't like the swearing. I do think his overall messaging. I've heard a few things from him, and I think, actually, you've got a very good point. But do I choose to, I don't hate him, but do I choose to follow him, or do I choose to really make a point of listening to him all the time? No, I don't, simply because, the language and everything, it doesn't really fit with me, and that's okay, but I'm not going to hate on him for it. But there are people out there who would do that. They would hate on you for it. So it's totally okay, and you have to find your own way. And I think that a lot of that comes from a lot of deep internal work. I don't think it's something that you can just suddenly just be okay with, and sometimes you do need to work through it.
Yeah, but this all triggers the imposter syndrome. Is like, why they don't like me, am I not good enough, and blah blah blah, all the rabbit hole again.
And I think that really stems from insecurity. That you yourself are not enough. And obviously, you and I both know that that's absolutely not true. It's just
and it's actually a very common feeling. We are if you suffer from imposter syndrome, you are in a very big group, in a big
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well, even famous people get it, so it's all right.
Yes, yes, even very smart people, even like what's her name? The well, Maya Angelou is one of. She wrote about it. Like I don't remember the phrase, but she says every time I write a book, I'm so scared that they're going to find out that this is
Yeah.
it. She doesn't
Yeah.
know anything about it, and she's an amazing, talented writer.
Oh yeah.
Brené Brown is amazing to talk about vulnerability and being feeling this emotion of not feeling good enough or insecure about ourselves is a very big vulnerability, and actually sharing it is a very, very powerful tool. So if you suffer from imposter syndrome, share it with somebody, call it out, and it becomes less scary. Because the problem with imposter syndrome is that when you suffer from it, and also when we had a chat with you, Arfa, you told me that you had the same feeling, is that when you feel it, it's like you think you're the only one feeling it, because nobody speaks about it. So you're like, is it just me? Is it just me feeling not smart enough? Not, I don't know what it is. So it feels very lonely, because it's like, is it just me? And it's not, because more than half of us is thinking the same thing at the same time, probably.
I thought I was just being weird because I didn't know what it was. And before I found out where it was, I just thought it was me. I thought I was the only person that had this problem. Turns out that's absolutely not true. And actually, the research shows that it's mostly very intelligent people that tend to suffer from it the most.
Yeah. Educated, successful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Men suffer from it as much as women. However, as I'm sure, as you know, men are more action oriented, so they don't get paralyzed from the fear. They just try to speak up at the meeting, even if everybody else is more senior. They tend to be more action oriented. They tend to be more like fearless in speaking up. While we women, we get paralyzed by this fear. It's like, I'm not ready. I think what I'm going to say is stupid, so I'm not going to say it unless I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I have some of my clients, especially the one working in corporate, they have this idea and they don't talk about it in the meeting, but they mention it to a male colleague. Next meeting, the male colleague is stealing her idea, her opinion, and he gets a round of applause. It's quite common. It feels like we women, some of us are like, we need to get some approval before speaking up or something.
I think it's that validation thing, isn't it? It's like, you're lucky almost when you're talking about it to other people and you're sharing your ideas with other people, but you won't share it with the room. What you're secretly trying to do, even though you're not aware of it, is you're seeking validation. You're seeking approval for that idea. But there is a flip side, and that is, exactly what you said, people steal your ideas. But also, the thing is though, why be plain vanilla? Why be like everyone else? Like, you should, come up with different ideas, and your ideas, not everyone has to like your ideas. It doesn't make your ideas bad. It just makes them different.
Yes.
Sometimes if you've got an idea that's like really out there, that can be very scary as well, because for other people, because it's like, oh, she's got a really good idea, so you know what we'll do, we'll just go and put her down because we don't want her to actually do that thing, and I have seen this happen. So I have a friend of mine, and she started her own business, and she's really suffered with imposter syndrome. One of the things that I noticed, and it was mostly her family that was doing it, they were really shooting her ideas down, and she's got some like really big plans for her business. And I was just like, you've got to ignore the haters, just ignore them. She goes, yeah, but it's hurting me, it's bothering me because it's my family, they're all telling me I'm no good and that I'm never going to do anything with it. And I said, yeah, maybe because they can't do anything with it themselves, they don't want you to do it either. But she has got an amazing idea, and I'm not, I keep trying to encourage her and I keep trying to explain that to her. But I think a lot of it is, again, it's that fear that, if it doesn't work out, then everyone's going to laugh at you anyway, So, but the thing is, though, if you don't try, you failed by default. you know, and I see my son doing this as well, by the way. So, you know, he's not the most confident of readers. So if he sees like a really difficult word, he's 10 years old, by the way. So if he sees like a really difficult word, he doesn't even like to try to attempt it because he thinks that everyone's going to laugh at him. But I just encourage him to go for it anyway. And it's taken him a very long time to sort of get away from thinking that everyone's going to laugh to actually, oh, do you know what, I gave it a go and I tried it and it worked anyway. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you that you pushed him to do it anyway, because
Yeah.
somebody might have laughed in the past, so he might have been paralyzed. And also about your friend, she should just do her thing. The thing is, when your own family doesn't believe in you, it's quite painful, but it can be also fuel that is like she's going to make it work despite her family. And actually, the family might not be even mean people. They must have grown with parents themselves that say, you're not doing anything in life. Who do you think you are? All these thoughts are usually hereditary from generation to generation. So she has the choice to break this pattern, be successful. It might be that when she becomes successful, her family are going to be very uncomfortable with that. But she needs to decide, do I need to make them happy, or shall I live my life? And if they don't like it, well, I can't do anything about it, because if they want to keep her small.
Well, it's small is comfortable, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what it is. It's like small is comfortable, you know. You know, and it's like same with me and myself on my own journey, because, you know, when I started out as a freelancer, and then I, you know, was a project manager for, you know, a very big company, and I did that for 5 years, and I was just purely doing digital marketing. And then, you know, and now I've set up my own company, and you know, I'm not going to say who it was, but a certain someone from my well, not from my family, but from my past, saw that, you know, I'm doing all this stuff, and oh, you just think you're some sort of career woman. I was really trying to put me down, and I'm like, whatever. It's like water off a duck's back. I think a few years ago I probably would have cared, you know, what this person is saying, but like I don't care anymore. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, you know.
Well done, Alpha. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, you already say that because you're jealous. You know, I'm not going to say it to their face, but, you know, that's what I'm thinking. But I just ignore, you know, I think the best thing is if you're hearing a lot of doubt coming from other people, you have to learn to block it out, and you have to learn not to care, because their path is not the same as yours. And, you know, you are different. You're not the same as everybody else, because if everyone was the same, we'd all be boring. So you've got to be confident in yourself, and you've got to do your own thing. You've got to find your own way, and you are going to make mistakes along the way, but that doesn't mean that you should put yourself down for those mistakes, because you learn more from the failures than you do from your successes.
Yes, failing is good. I mean, we shouldn't try them on purpose, but failing is good because it teaches us much, and it's like it also keeps us humble, because sometimes we think, I know how to run my business, I should do this in like linear, because this is what society make us believe, that life is linear. Nothing is linear in life, guys. And so
it's absolutely true.
It's keeping changing the direction. It's like when we're going in the wrong direction, and a mistake might happen to make us think, maybe this is not really my direction, maybe I should try something else. So it's very good.
Yeah, excellent.
So to recap, guys, thank you for listening. And if you feel imposter syndrome, is a very good thing. It means you're normal, and it means you are growing. And today we talk with amazing Arfa Iqbal. She's a marketing ninja. And if you need any help with digital marketing, contact her. She's amazing. And she's one of those people that, even if she's a super expert and knowledgeable, she will not use any jargon when she talks to you. She will talk to you in a very clear way, and you will understand what she means and everything. She's amazing. So if you're looking for a digital marketer, I'm going to share in the description her website and her contact details.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Janine. It was
Arfa, thank you ever so much for my very first podcast. For being my first guest ever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Here's to many more.
Awesome. Thank you. I wish you a lovely day, guys, everybody who listen, and thank you ever so much again, Alpha, for today. I really
Oh, thank
appreciate.
you. Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.